The boy with the blonde hair was running at me through the dark, and his eyes were the wrong color. Yesterday they had been blue. Soft, ordinary blue, the kind of blue you don't think twice about. But now, in the black bowl of those Colorado woods, they burned a sick electric yellow, and his mouth was open far too wide, and the sound coming out of him was not a sound a 10-year-old boy should ever be able to make. I knew his name. I had thrown rocks into a pond with him not a day before. And he was coming to tear me apart, and the only thing in the world that could stop it was a crow watching me from a branch with my father's patience in its eyes. Let me back up. Because if I just tell you that part, you'll think it's a nightmare, and it isn't. Or, it is, but it's a true one. My name is Benjamin. I don't have a last name. I'm 26, I think. And my father is Death. Seeing who my father is, I should be careful with that word, because I know what it makes you picture. A skeleton in a black robe. A scythe. A hooded figure at the foot of the bed. It isn't like that. My father isn't a monster, and he isn't a killer. In all my life I never once saw him hurt anything that wasn't already meant to be hurt. I'm honestly not sure what he is. I'm not sure there's a word for it in any language people speak. He can be anything. He's the wind that moves through your hair when you're standing at a graveside and there's no reason for wind. He's the crow on the windowsill the morning after your grandmother passes, the one that looks at you a beat too long. He's the thing your grandfather kept pointing at, in the corner of the hospital room, the empty corner, the one nobody else could see, right up until the machines went quiet. He's all of those. He can wear any shape he wants. But for me he almost always chose the same one. A big man. Heavy set, broad through the shoulders, gray coming into his hair and into a thick beard that scratched my cheek when he lifted me up. He smelled like cold air and old wool. He had a low voice, the kind you feel in your chest more than hear. That's the shape I called Dad my whole life. He wasn't my real father. He couldn't be. I don't think he's capable of making anything, only of carrying things away. He used to look at me and say, very quietly, "You're like nothing I've ever seen before." And then he'd shake his head like the thought tired him out. Here's the part they don't tell you. Everybody has a fate. Every single person. It's set, it's fixed, and it almost never goes the way you'd hope. Most fates aren't kind. But they are yours, and you can't change them, and you can't outrun them. My fate was supposed to find me when I was 3 days old. I was supposed to be left outside the hospital in the rain, and I was supposed to die there in the cold, alone, before I had a name. But when my father came to collect me, when death came down to that wet sidewalk to gather up the soul that was owed, I was still breathing. That had never happened before. Not once, in all the time he'd been doing the work. A fate had failed to land. And there I was, this small impossible thing, alive when every law that holds the world together said I shouldn't be. He told me, years later, that I don't fit. That I'm an anomaly. That my just being here, eating, sleeping, walking around, living, could put cracks in something much bigger than me. But he couldn't kill me to fix it, because technically, you understand, I had already met my fate. The books were balanced. I was, on paper, dead. So I couldn't die again. So he did the only other thing he could think of. He took me. He raised me. Seeing, a childhood out of time, it was, in its way, a normal childhood. Or it felt normal, because it was the only one I had to compare it to. I didn't go to birthday parties. I never sat in a classroom or a daycare or on a yellow bus. I didn't have neighbors. What I had was him, and the work, and the road, except the road wasn't a road. If you've never traveled through time and space the way he does, folding through it, slipping between the waves of it like a hand sliding into water, then I'm sorry, but you really are missing the most beautiful thing there is. One moment a hospice room in a small gray town, the next a battlefield, the next a quiet house where an old woman was waiting in her chair with her eyes already closed and a smile already on her face because she knew, she'd always known, that he'd come for her gently. That was most of the work, honestly. Gentle. He'd sit on the edge of a bed and hold a hand that had stopped being able to hold back. He'd find people in the worst moments of their lives and somehow make the moment after softer. Grandfathers who were ready and tired and grateful. Reckless young people who weren't ready at all, who fought and wept and bargained, and he'd stay with each of them however long it took. I watched 1,000 people leave the world in his company, and I want you to know, it was never cruel. He was the kindest thing I have ever known. But that's not the story I came to tell. The story I came to tell is about the ones who don't leave. Seen, the ones who stay, because my father isn't perfect at his job. Sometimes he can't reach a soul in time. Sometimes a person dies with so much rage packed into their chest, so much grief, so much that's unfinished, that they simply refuse. They dig their heels into the world. And a soul is not meant to stay. A soul that overstays, something happens to it. Something rots. They stop being people. That's the only way I know how to say it. I've seen so many of them since, and it never once got easier. Every single time, the fear is fresh. They lose everything human in stages. Their faces twist up with a pain that has no bottom to it, mouths frozen open mid-scream, eyes gone to that wet yellow glow, and behind the rage there's always this terrible begging, this desperation, like some small trapped part of them is still in there clawing at the walls, just wanting it to be over. Their limbs stretch longer than limbs should go, joints bending wrong, fingers reaching across a room without the body seeming to move at all. They come out at night, mostly. They keep to the dark places, the dead-end alley behind the shut-down factory, the deep middle of a forest where the trees grow so close no light gets in, the places where nobody will see what they've become and what they've become won't have to be seen. They're not evil exactly. They're suffering. But they're dangerous, and they cause problems, for my father's bosses, whoever or whatever those are, who don't like loose threads, and for the ordinary world, because every so often somebody spots one and there's a panic, a blurry photo, a town that won't go outside after dark. So a regular part of the work, a take your son to work day part of the work, was hunting them down. Finding the rotted ones and putting them, finally, to rest. Seen, Linda, in the bush, the first one I really remember was in Australia. I was about 8. It was the dead middle of the night and the bush was so thick and so loud, insects, the dry rattle of things moving in the brush, that enormous southern silence underneath it all that somehow had a weight to it, pressing on your ears. The air was warm and smelled of dust and eucalyptus and something faintly sweet and rotten underneath. "Stay here, Benny," Dad said. "It's too dangerous in the bush." "No, Daddy, I want to go with you." I was 8. I always wanted to go with him. He sighed, this long slow sigh, and he was quiet a moment, thinking. Then, "All right. But you stay by me. And you cover your eyes when I tell you. Understand?" I grabbed his hand, that big warm rough hand, and we pushed in through the plants, branches dragging at my shirt, the ground uneven under my feet. And then I heard it. Out there in the black. Good, Dad murmured, almost to himself. She's comin' out. I held his hand tighter. The thing growled, low and broken, and for 1 second I saw it, a pair of yellow eyes hanging in the dark, and the wet shine of a snarl, teeth like something dragged out of a nightmare. Close your eyes, Ben. But Dad, close your eyes. I did. I knew why. Because when it came to the rotted ones, my father changed his shape, became something the dying soul would know, something from deep in their memory, to coax them back. And for whatever reason, he never, ever wanted me to see him change. So I stood there in the warm dark with my eyes screwed shut, his hand gone from mine, and I listened. I heard a struggle. A heavy sound, something tackled to the ground, the whole earth seeming to shudder with it. I heard screams, not animal, not human, something in between, ear-splitting, going on and on. And then, slowly, it ebbed. The screams folded down into sobs. And the sobs were a woman's. When I opened my eyes, the monster was gone, and a woman knelt in the dirt where it had been. Her name was Linda. She had a son about my age, she told us, and she missed him so much it had kept her from leaving. Her husband had killed her 3 months before. She never got to say goodbye to anyone. I don't want to go on, she wept, without ever telling him I loved him. One last time. He knows, love, Dad said. And he was Dad again, big and gray and gentle, kneeling in the dust beside her. I hadn't heard him change back. What about me, she whispered. Meaning her boy. Meaning, did her son know? My father closed his eyes for a long moment. He loved you, he said. He loved you very much. And I watched her eyes change, the yellow draining out of them, replaced by a warm, soft hazel brown. They were beautiful. She smiled, and her teeth were just teeth, a person's teeth, nothing like the snarl I'd glimpsed. She looked, for that last second, exactly like somebody's mom. It's time to go, Dad said, and held out his hand. And she took it. Have you ever felt like something was watching you, in an empty room, in the woods, in the corner of your eye? Tell me in the comments. Because I grew up knowing that feeling was almost always right. There was almost always something there. I just usually knew its name. Seen, the rules, I've dealt with 100 Lindas since. They break my heart every time, but they don't haunt me. The one that haunts me is different. To tell it I have to tell you about the rules. By the time I was around 10, my father trusted me a little more. He'd let me out of his sight sometimes, while he worked. But the rules were strict and they were absolute, and the most important one was this: I was never, ever to interact with living people. Not talk to them. Not touch their lives. He didn't actually know what would happen if I did, that was the terrifying part, even to him. Everything fits together like a puzzle, he'd say, turning a piece in his fingers that wasn't really there. The fates move with precision. Everything happens for a reason, in an order, and it cannot be jostled. You're an anomaly, Benny. If an anomaly gets loose in the works, it could tear the timeline. And then, always, tread on the side of caution. I was 10. I thought I knew better. When he was away collecting, I'd go for walks. That part was allowed, as long as I stayed somewhere remote enough that I'd never cross paths with a soul. And for years I followed that. But on all our travels I had seen so many playgrounds, bright impossible things, swings and slides and bars, full of shrieking laughing children, and I had never once been allowed to touch one. So this time, in Colorado, while my father was off in the hills with his endless work, I snuck away to find one. Scene, Tyler, I found it at the edge of a small town. A scrubby little park, a swing set with rust on the chains, monkey bars, a green pond off to one side ringed with cattails. The light was that thick golden late afternoon kind, and the air smelled of cut grass and pond water and warm metal. I swung on the swings. I tried the monkey bars and fell off twice. Honestly, it was a letdown. I'd built it up my whole life and it was just cold rusty metal and dust. I was about to leave when a voice behind me said, "What are you doing?" I turned around. A boy. About my age. Dusty blonde hair sticking up on one side, a t-shirt with some cartoon character on it I didn't recognize, scabbed knees. "My dad says I shouldn't talk to strangers," I said. It was the truest thing I owned. "My name's Tyler," he said, like that settled it. Now I'm not a stranger. "What's yours?" "I'm Ben." "Cool. You wanna go throw rocks in the pond?" And that was it. That was all it took to undo 10 years of rules. We threw rocks in the pond until our arms hurt. We climbed a tree and he showed me where to put my feet. We chased squirrels we had no chance of catching and laughed until we couldn't breathe. The whole golden afternoon I felt something I had never once felt in my strange long childhood. I felt like a real kid. Just a kid. Not an anomaly, not a mistake in the books, not death's quiet shadow. Just Ben, with my friend Tyler, on an ordinary day. If this story is keeping you up, if you're sitting there in the dark with one lamp on, telling yourself you'll turn it off in just a minute, do me a favor and subscribe. We post new horror every single night. Because the dark afternoon was about to end, and the light was already starting to go. "I gotta go," Tyler said as the sun dropped toward the hills. "Mom says I gotta be home before dark for dinner. We're having sloppy joes. You wanna come?" God, I wanted to. No, I made myself say. I shouldn't. And I kicked myself, because it sounded so strange, so flat, and I couldn't think of any better reason. Tyler just shrugged. "Okay. Meet here tomorrow. Let's build a fort." "Yeah," I said. Tomorrow. Scene, tomorrow, and the day after, when Dad came back to me that night, he told me we'd be staying in the area a while longer. That was unusual. We almost never spent more than a day in one place. There were always more souls than time, 40,000 of them waiting, always. But Colorado, it turned out, had far more deaths coming than anyone expected. "Did you get up to anything fun today?" he asked, setting my dinner in front of me. His eyes were on my face. I have wondered, since, whether he already knew. I thought about telling him. I really did. "Not really," I said. I met Tyler the next day too. We started the fort, dragging fallen branches into the crook of two trees, arguing about the doorway. We made plans for the day after. I went home and lied to my father a second time. But the day after, Tyler wasn't there. I waited at the swings. The minutes stretched. The light moved across the grass and went gold and then thin and gray. Still no Tyler. I told myself he'd been kept home. I told myself he was sick, or grounded, or just forgot. I sat on the cold swing as the park emptied and the streetlights at the edge of it buzzed on one by one. And I should have gone home. But I was 10, and worried, and stupid. So after dark, I slipped past my father. He was deep in his work, fold after fold of it, and I went back to the woods behind the park to look for my friend. Just to see. Just to make sure. Scene: in the dark woods, the trees swallowed the streetlight after a few steps. It got cold, fast, that mountain cold that comes up out of the ground and goes straight through your clothes. The pond was somewhere off to my right, I could hear it, a soft black lapping. The branches creaked overhead. My breath fogged. And under everything, that mountain silence, the heavy kind, the kind I knew far too well from far too many nights in places like this. Then I heard it. A growl. Low, broken, wet. The exact sound I had grown up hunting at my father's side. My whole body went to ice. I spun around, trying to look everywhere at once, and the dark gave me nothing back. The growl came again, closer. Then again, closer still. Whatever it was circling me, and it was tightening the circle. "Dad," I said, and my voice came out small. "Dad." And then the thoughts hit me all at once, cold and certain. The rotted ones came at night. They came to dark places. And I, an anomaly, a crack in the world, a thing that shouldn't exist, had spent 3 days putting my hands all over an ordinary boy's ordinary life. Tyler wasn't here. There was a monster here instead. Had I done this? Had my just being near him pulled something loose in the works? Had I led this thing to him, or made it? "Dad! Dad, please!" I screamed it now. Something landed on a branch above me, a soft heavy ruffle of feathers. I looked up. A crow. Black against the black, head tipped, one eye catching what little light there was, looking at me. Just looking. And I knew that I knew that patience. "Dad, please," I begged, quieter now, because the thing in the dark had stopped circling. It had stopped, and I heard it rise. I heard the joints of it crack and stretch as it stood up on its hind legs, taller, and taller, far taller than anything that walks on four. The yellow eyes swung toward me out of the black and held me there, pinned, unable to move, unable to run. And then, behind those poisonous yellow eyes, deeper in, I saw another pair. Blue. Wide. Full of fear. The exact blue I had thrown rocks into a pond with, 2 days before. Tyler. For one heartbeat, the yellow flickered. For one heartbeat I think he knew me. And then it was gone, swallowed, and the thing that used to be Tyler screamed and charged. Seen, what my father did, I screamed and turned to run, and I knew I wouldn't make it, and the crow dropped off the branch in a black rush right past my face. And I felt it, that old instinct, that wordless command I'd obeyed 100 times. I didn't need to hear his voice. I shut my eyes. What would you have done? I still wonder, to this day, whether closing them was mercy or cowardice. I was 10. I shut my eyes in the dark and I left my father to it. Then I heard a voice. And it stopped my heart, because the voice was mine. My own voice, calling out, where my father's should have been. I couldn't help it. I opened my eyes. My father had not changed into something from Tyler's memory. He had changed into me. There I stood, another me, small and blonde-haired and wearing my clothes, arms out, drawing the monster in. And the thing that had been Tyler hit him. Hit me. I watched a boy with my own face go down under those stretching limbs, and I watched blood, my face, pour dark into the dirt, and I could not move, I could not breathe, I could only stand there and witness it. But even through the horror, I saw the other thing happening. With every passing second the monster grew less monstrous. The limbs drew back in. The terrible mouth softened. The yellow bled out of the eyes. My father was taking it, all of it, wearing my face so that whatever last human part of Tyler was in there would have something it loved to hold on to, something to come home to. He was giving the boy me to die against, so the boy could die as a boy and not as a thing. And then it was over. Tyler was Tyler again, dusty blonde hair, scabbed knees, blue eyes gone soft and clear, and finally still. Still. Because he was dead. He was, by then, simply dead. My father stood up out of the dark, his own shape again, gray and heavy and tired beyond anything. He looked down at me, and his face was not gentle. "This," he said, very low, "is what happens when you talk to other people, son." Scene, after, did I kill him? My voice came apart on the words. Dad, did I kill him? No. He shook his head slowly. No. He was always going to die at this age. It was his fate. He was always going to die at 10. He turned to face me fully, and there was something in his eyes I had never seen there before, not anger. Grief. I know now that this was destined to happen, Benny. He was always meant to go, here, now. But maybe if I had hidden you better. If I'd kept you further from the world. Then his end wouldn't have had to be like this. Like that. He meant rotted. He meant turned into a screaming thing in the dark that had to be hunted and broken before it could rest. Tyler's fate was always to die at 10, but it was my fingerprints, my friendship, my 3 stolen golden afternoons, that decided how. I didn't kill my friend. I just made his death a horror. Daddy, I didn't mean to, let's go, son. He held out his hand, the way he'd held it out to Linda, to 1,000 others. We're off to Mongolia. I took it. What else could I do? And the woods folded away around us. We never really talked about it again. But everything changed after that night. The leash came back, shorter than ever. I shadowed him for years, every collection, every soul, never out of his sight, hidden away from the living world even more completely than before, until, slowly, he learned to trust me again. I don't know that I ever fully trusted myself. Seeing what I carry, I'm 26 now. I think. Time is a strange thing to count when you've spent your life folding through it. I've put 100 more Lindas to rest since that night, held 100 more hands, watched the yellow drain back to brown and blue and green. And every single time, in the half-second before the eyes change, I look for a flicker of fear in the deep of them. I look for Tyler. I always look for Tyler. Here is the thing they don't tell you, the thing I learned at 10 years old in the cold Colorado dark: your fate is already written, and you cannot change the when of it. But the how can still be touched. The how can still be ruined, by the wrong person getting too close at the wrong time. By love, even. By a boy who only wanted, for one afternoon, to throw rocks into a pond and feel ordinary. So I keep my distance now. I tend the rules my father gave me like they're the only thing holding the world together, because as far as I know, they are. And I tell myself that's enough. That if I just stay far enough away, no one else has to die the way Tyler died. In reading this, I hope the same fate that found my friend never finds you. I hope when my father comes for you, and he will, in some shape, the wind or the crow or the figure in the corner your eyes keep sliding away from. I hope you're ready, and I hope you go gently, and I hope you go as yourself. Keep me posted, I guess. If you can. Scene, outro, subscribe for more horror every single night. And if you want more stories that will keep you up, check out What the Wow Stories for the wildest relationship drama you've ever heard. Link below. Sleep well.